Hey guys, Airsoft Al here. Just thought I'd let you know that we have a PayPal, so before the video even begins, would you kindly consider donating to our PayPal, because this channel is 100% supported by you the viewers. So, thank you for your support to those who have donated, and now on with the video. All clear. Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Airsoft Al, and welcome to another episode in the Operation Burning Star milsim series. Now, you're probably wondering why I have a gas mask. Well, that actually is part of the immersion element and a gameplay aspect of Operation Burning Star. Operation Burning Star, which is a alternate history take, or at least my alternate history take, of what happens when Texas has enough of California's bullshit and they decide to declare war on them. Well, one of the elements of the actual gameplay and story is a emphasis on tear gas use. Why tear gas? Well, if California was dumb enough to actually use biological weapons, then the whole of the United States would be coming down on them. However, tear gas, being considered a non-lethal chemical weapon, or at least a chemical agent, is more or less used for riot control and crowd dispersion. So it would make sense to actually be used in a type of demoralization and scattering use, as seen in history when used in the Vietnam War to a very heavy extent. Even in modern day, tear gas is still used for riot situations, or at least illegal protest situations, i.e. when Antifa starts up their shit, tear gas is used on them, especially in the Yellow Vest protest in France right now, when their tyrannical government actually uses tear gas on their citizens. Now, what about an airsoft? Primarily, what about the milsim event? Well, the milsim event itself, and even, of course, everything else in between, smoke grenades will be used. Primarily, we are discussing whether or not white or yellow smoke grenades should be used for the aspect of tear gas, as well as the whole idea of how it works. Now, this video isn't going to be very long, and is more or less going to be more of the informing of how the gameplay element is, or how not only immersive, but also gameplay element handles it. As well as choice of respirators, and the level of immersion in terms of respirators that you, the players who would actually, or may attend Operation Burning Star, would want to go with in terms of, you know, how deep do I want my immersion, how much of my face do I want covered, to actually handle it, and what is, you know, that all together. But let's go ahead and break down the actual use of tear gas, or at least the gameplay element of it. One, nobody can call in tear gas. Okay, let me break it down. Not some grunt can call in tear gas attacks unless their squad leader or CO has been taken out and they themselves have assumed the command role. They can't exactly call it in. That is more or less up to the officer or the non-commissioned officer of that squad, or at least the squad or platoon leader. Even then, that comes down to the regimental level of whether or not authorization of a tear gas attack can be used. Now, when it comes to it, how does it work? The way it works is that if you're caught in a tear gas attack without a respirator on or without a gas mask on, then you are essentially incapacitated at that time and have to be pulled away and given time to be put on your respirator or half-face respirator and sent back into the fighting. Because technically speaking, if you're caught in a tear gas attack without your respirator on or your gas mask on, then you are not able to fight. It's not really more of the thing's going to kill you and you have to be medicked. It's more of, oh, I cannot, fight in this. Another element of this is the medical reasons of this is because it is going to have such heavy smoke in the area whenever one is called in. The respirators would be great for those like myself who are asthmatic, or at least have a sort of bronchial type deal with their lungs. It would be great for them to actually be able to have a sort of breathing apparatus, or at least be able to breathe through the smoke. Again, it's more or less a health thing as well as immersion. The immersion aspect of it is that not a lot of airsoft games allow you to play in a gas mask, or at least a lot of milsim events don't kind of follow that aspect of players playing in a gas mask and giving you that sort of immersive element. The only other one I know of was an Operation Lion Claw, which I finally found out what the milsim company was. It was an Operation Lion Claw where they dealt with a biological weapon or a nuclear weapon, and all the players were required to play with gas mask on, or at least something that simulated a gas mask. Now, I know World War I airsoft has a gas mask rule when it comes to the use of smoke grenades as chemical weapons and things like that, but it just kind of comes down to it. Now, in terms of the rules itself and calling in a tear gas attack, here's what happens. You have to have a situation that kind of meets the criteria of a tear gas attack. What are the criteria? One, you must be entrenched, or at least be in a static position which you are not which you, your squad, or the platoon cannot move from, and have been there for a good solid while, meaning you are essentially in a stalemate situation. Second, you must contact command in order to actually authorize the use of a tear gas strike. By which point in time, command will then go to the game admins. The game admins will then look at a chart, or at least a dry erase board, and say, okay, when was the last time they used a tear gas strike? And, what was the cooldown? What's their cooldown time left on it? Because that's the thing, guys. The cooldown element, there's going to be a cooldown element, so that way you're just constantly spam it. That's more or less one of those things. And when authorized, you can essentially use white smoke, essentially, or yellow smoke, whichever one we decide on. Again, it kind of depends on how it all goes. But once you use that, there's a cooldown time to where you cannot use that ever. You cannot use it again until the cooldown time has passed. So in a sense, it's sort of like Battlefield 1, in a sense, where you have, chemical weapons and things like that, or the one map, where you have launchers that actually launch clouds of chemical basically chemical gas, onto one of the flags, one or two of the flags, essentially. So there's that. Now, I say that because that's more or less how it's going to be. It's going to be based on that whole element of, there's a cooldown time, you can only use it a certain amount of times, and you only can use it if it meets the criteria of you're in a stalemate. Now, this may change depending, because these rules and aspects are very much so work in progress, and I know one of the guys who's helping me out, which is from the local airsoft team here in Tennessee that's actually been to a couple milsim events, or at least a couple events, is actually helping me out with this. And to the field owners themselves and the people who are watching this and want to do their own Operation Burning Star, or at least something similar to it in their own areas, then you can take this rule and you can kind of give ideas of the cooldown time, things, elements of that sort of thing. Now we've talked about that, let's go ahead and talk about the mask, because this is one of the big things I think a lot of people are going to be asking about is gas mask and respirators themselves. Now, the most common thing you can actually... Now, because I'm a volunteer fighter, not exactly an official one, with Texas Army, they would have essentially up-to-date gas masks, or essentially modern gas masks that are going on right now, such as FM50s or things like that. Unless you're in the gas mask, unless you understand gas masks, you know what I'm talking about. Now, with volunteer fighters, such as myself, we don't exactly get issued gas masks. We get what we buy, such as surplus gas mask or even half-face respirators. Now, the most common thing I'm probably going to see at the event for those who actually don't want the full face mask, but they want essentially something that gives them that ability and protection from the smoke, and gives them that ability to have that immersion, would probably be these. 3M half mask, or at least 3M half dust mask, can actually be used, yes, and there are CBRN, or at least some filters that you can actually attach to it that actually do protect you from smoke, carbon monoxide, and a few other things like that. So you can actually buy those filters. Another one is, of course, those who want a full face mask but want the protection of it. Well, the one I was rocking a little earlier, if I can get it out, is this one. This is an Israeli civilian mask. This has polycarbonate lens, these right here, which are shatter resistant. And should these actually crack, well, no worries. They can be replaced, thanks to, of course, the little engineering of our nice friends over in Israel, where you can actually take a Phillips head screwdriver, unscrew that, and remove the lens themselves and replace them with either new polycarbonate lens themselves, or you can actually buy extras from the actual factory themselves. These are considered airsoft safe by a lot of fields, including high ground, which actually allows players to play with these masks on because of the polycarbonate lens and the fact that they are ballistic rated, as well as a few others. Now, there are other gas masks themselves, more modern ones, and respirators that are actually full face, and they are panoramic, meaning you can actually get a full 180 degrees in front of you, and they are shatter resistant and can actually take a hit, and they are these little bad boys right here. Was a 3M mask that can actually take a filter like this, which is a gas mask filter, a 40mm filter. Now, in saying that, I know a lot of people, including veterans themselves, are going to immediately comment talking about the other masks and respirators, what have you. Again, it kind of depends on what you want for your immersion element and how much of an immersion you want, but it's one of those things. This is the one I'll probably be rocking because, again, it has that nice sort of retro World War I feel to it. It's kind of nice, kind of cool, kind of fits my taste of retro and modern, but I might actually get something much different depending. Either way, though. That's really about it, guys. So, yeah. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think of the idea of having simulated attacks, or at least simulated tear gas strikes, in a milsim event, or at least what you think of this element of Operation Burning Star. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. As always, I've been Airsoft Al, and I will see all you lovely people in the next Operation Burning Star video. Till next time.